Welcome to A Voice of Reason in Turbulent Times with Pastor Charles Burnett-Morrow. A powerful, practical, prophetic, and progressive commentary about what is happening in our world today.
Okay. All right. We're about to enter my second hour. It's about 2 minutes, but I'm going to go ahead and start now. Having said all that, in order to prevent tyranny, in order to prevent authoritarianism in America, the majority of the voting population has to be opposed to the notion of a king. Sadly, most people in America today have never sat under a king. Now, there are people who have come from other countries and they've had, monarchies, but in the modern world, most monarchies are very much limited. They don't wield the same weight, the same authority and power that they once did. Now they're given more or less, like in England, the monarchy is given more of a advisory role. The monarch can advise the government, they can suggest, they can recommend, they can offer their input. However, they do not wield the levers of power. Those levers are controlled, in England, they're controlled by Westminster Palace. They're controlled by the House of Lords, the House of Commons, the leadership of the government in the United Kingdom. We are at a place in America today where many people, especially in the religious right, are convinced that our nation would be better off with a king. I preached a message. I know I keep saying this, but folks, I'm going to keep saying it because it's a fact. I preached a message 20 years ago this year, or last year. 20, so it's going on 21 years now. I preached a message while George W. Bush was running for re-election. I preached a message, The Man Who Would Be King. In that message, I sounded a warning. Prophetically, I said, the Spirit of the Lord has shown me that the religious right in this country is now of a mindset similar to that of ancient Israel. Israel no longer, as a nation, wanted to be guided by prophets. They no longer wanted to be guided by what were referred to as judges, but oftentimes the judge was, in fact, a prophet. But rather, they wanted a king like other nations. Well, Samuel went before the Lord and told him what the people were wanting. And the Lord said, tell them thus and so. Let me tell you what happens when a king is established in any nation. You see, the sad reality is there are certain truths, folks, which are universal. There are certain truths, just like gravity. What goes up must come down. There are certain things that are going to happen, period, when you establish a monarchy. When you give one individual absolute power, there are a certain list of things that are absolutely going to happen. And the Lord told Samuel, let them know that this is what they're going to wind up with. And the people of Israel didn't care. They still wanted a king. They didn't heed the Lord's warning. They didn't heed Samuel's words. They still wanted a king. And the Lord said, fine, I will give them a king. He anointed Saul to be the first king over Israel. Saul started out well, but before too long, the position of power went to his head, as always happens. The old saying is, absolute power corrupts absolutely, meaning you give somebody absolute power and there is no way, there is not a man on this planet who is of such a character and of such integrity that absolute unbridled power will not ultimately corrupt that man. And so, what started out, I say sweet in their mouth, became bitter in their belly. It tasted good, but it gave them a stomachache, okay? In the beginning, the idea of a king and Saul, he was handsome, he was tall, he was well built, he was a warrior, he was victorious in battle, and oh man, everybody was thrilled to death with Saul. But by the end, people weren't nearly as thrilled with Saul as they had been at the beginning. Many of the things the Lord warned the nation of Israel concerning, when I preached my message in 2004, I read down this list from Samuel, from the books of Samuel, and I said, he is going to send your young men off to war. He's going to seek after conquest. He's going to turn your young people into servants. He is going to enrich himself at the expense of the nation, so on and so forth.
A voice of reason in turbulent times with Pastor Charles Burnett-Morrow, speaking truth at a time when truth is in short supply.